We used to think that we're the masters of our lives, but the truth is that we're not. Physically, we're not even humans. More than half of our bodies are something else. What is it? Let's find out. This is Infinity, and in this episode I'll tell you why you're only 43% human. Let's go. The fact that we may not be who we think we are is well illustrated by the story of American Lydia Fairchild. In 2002, when Lydia was 26 years old, she divorced her husband and sought child support for their 2 children. In such cases, standard procedure in the U.S. requires that the father and mother take DNA tests to confirm the relationship. Lydia's ex-husband passed the test without any problems, but Lydia failed it. Genetic analysis showed that she was not the biological mother of her children. How'd that happen? Were the children from another man? Surprisingly, no. Both Lydia and her ex-husband were 100% sure about it. The court suspected Lydia of cheating. Prosecutors asked for medical records of maternity homes. There was even talk of interrogating the obstetrician who delivered the baby. Authorities were about to take away Lydia Fairchild's parental rights and convict her for surrogacy scams and placing her children in an orphanage. But Lydia was saved by her pregnancy with her 3rd child. The judge gave Lydia a chance and ordered that a bailiff observe the birth and immediately take tests from the newborn. When the baby was born, tests were taken, but they again showed that Fairchild was not the mother of her child. Most likely, Lydia would have been charged and put behind bars had it not been for her lawyer, Alan Tyndall. He read an article in the New England Journal of Medicine about the unique phenomenon of Karen Keegan. When she was 52 years old, she became seriously ill and needed a kidney transplant for treatment. Her 2 adult children said they were willing to be donors, and doctors took tests to see if the donor's organs were compatible with Karen's. The results stumped the doctors. According to the genetic test, Keegan's sons were not her children. It was the same case as with Lydia. Keegan offered another sample of her tissue for testing. Some time ago, she had a nodule removed from her thyroid gland, which was still stored in the lab. After examining the nodule, scientists concluded Keegan's sons were her children after all, because the tissue of the nodule fully matched the genetic code of her sons. Scientists came to the unusual conclusion that Karen was a chimera. Her body was composed of tissues with different genomes. This anomaly occurs when 2 eggs are fertilized at conception. Usually twins develop in such case, but occasionally a chimera is born consisting of genetically dissimilar cells. Fairchild also turned out to be a chimera. Expanded DNA tests with the woman's relatives, as well as a series of tissue tests on different parts of her body, showed this. Scientists found out that Lydia Fairchild's skin and her hair had one genetic code, but her reproductive system had another one. This is what was passed on to the children, so the charges against Lydia were dropped. It turns out that both Karen Keegan and Lydia Fairchild were not who they thought they were all their lives. In fact, each of them was only half of themselves. The other half was someone else's genome. But the interesting thing is that the vast majority of people are not even half humans. You're one of them. Stay tuned to find out why that is. 43%. 43 is how many percent we are humans. Then what are the other 57%? Scientists believe that 50% of our bodies belong to microbes, bacteria, viruses, and fungi. Even that outnumbering is scary, isn't it? But other figures are more frightening. If human genome consists of 20,000 genes, then the sum of genes of all microorganisms living in us is about 20 million. In fact, we have a whole army, a huge community of microorganisms, or microbiome. According to scientists, microorganisms are the real owners of all of us and the most important inhabitants of the planet. Some specialists consider bacteria to be the crown of creation. An interesting study conducted by a group of scientists from Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology led to surprising results. Scientists have studied intestinal bacteria in the inhabitants of Russia, as well as citizens of the United States and Europe. They came to the conclusion that it's impossible to distinguish between Russian, American, and European city dwellers by their microbiota. At the level of bacteria, we're all twins. However, people from the countryside are different from city dwellers. They have a wide and massive representation of all kinds of bacteria. The situation is close to the norm. But why are bacteria so dominant in the human body in the first place? Why are they rightfully the masters of our bodies, and why are we only 43% humans? Scientists believe that improper nutrition and a number of antibiotics are to blame. The effects of preservatives and certain medications are much higher than one might imagine. The human body has undergone many changes in recent decades following the increase in the number of drugs and the development of the food industry. Researchers believe that antibiotics and preservatives knock certain types of bacteria out of the metabolic chain. Most importantly, they destroy many beneficial bacteria, and their place is taken by the bad bacteria, which get a free hand and begin to flourish. They have a negative impact on many life processes. For example, they produce more calories than necessary, which can make a person gain extra weight without consuming junk food. In the case of consuming fatty and other unhealthy foods, weight is gained even faster. Professor Rob Knight proved this by experimenting with mice. First, he raised them in perfect sanitary and sterile conditions. They never came into contact with germs from birth. The professor found out that if you take thin and obese people and transplant bacteria from their feces to mice, the mice will get fat or thin depending on whose bacteria they were transplanted with. When mice that received bacteria from obese people were given bacteria from skinny people, the mice began to lose weight and vice versa. The impact of that very 57% of our body on our body also manifests itself in diseases. Scientists have found out that there is a close correlation between all this accumulation of bacteria and human ailments. Despite the fact that in recent decades, scientists have done a lot of work to eliminate many viruses and infectious diseases, the situation has not changed dramatically. Because of the change in the composition of bacteria in our bodies, there's been a great increase in autoimmune and allergic diseases. This is familiar to many people. Probably every other person here who watches this video suffers from some kind of allergy or chronic disease. It's the effect of the very 57%. The state of bacteria in our bodies has also been linked to other diseases, such as inflammatory bowel disease, Parkinson's disease, the effectiveness of cancer drugs, and even autism and depression. Nevertheless, although the relationship between bacteria and disease is already visible and clear, scientists still do not understand exactly where the cause and effect lie. Science is not yet able to say unambiguously that with a certain composition of the microflora, a person is bound to have a disease. Every person's specific. We all take different medications and eat different foods, but we may all have similar diseases. Scientists believe that there's a lot of work to be done and a huge number of people to study. According to researchers, in the future, everyone should have a passport of their bacteria. It will allow creating a reliable system of diagnostics by microflora. With advances in technology and new capabilities, in the future, scientists will probably be able to predict human incipient diseases very successfully from their bacteria. In the future, we may also have bacterial passports, but that's not all. Scientists believe that 57% of our body that is not our body could play a major role in medicine in general. For example, bacterial transplants can be used to rejuvenate the body. After all, a person's microflora ages along with them, and the transplantation of young microorganisms boosts metabolism and activates the immune system. Such experiments are already underway, and many clinics are even now actively engaged in bacterial transplantation to solve various problems related to health and aging. However, there are quite a few problems here, and the main one is rejection. Among those 57%, there are quite a few bad bacteria that have already become entrenched in our bodies, so much so that even our immune system has recognized them as beneficial bacteria. Naturally, these old-timers do not want to accept the young and useful bacteria and fight them in order to not lose their place. In this case, after transplantation of the bacteria, the person gets a fever and other undesirable reactions appear. The task of scientists is to unravel the code of the immune system so as to understand what kinds of bacteria can be transplanted into the body, how to do it, and in what quantity. If they derive the perfect formula, we'll be able to literally transform our bodies and forget about many diseases. We can only hope that scientists will come up with the formula soon. That's all, guys. What's your favorite bacterium? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you later.